There are many resources for locating biographical information in GoWYLD. You can find current and historical, as well as information for kids and adults. I'm beginning here at the GoWYLD databases page, gowyld.net, and you'll notice under the subject area we have designated biography. And we're going to work through a few of these today, as well as some other ones that you can find biographical information in. You'll notice that we've put a recommended check mark near a couple of them as you scroll down the page. We're trying to do that in all our subject pages because of the broad variety that we have. We're trying to highlight a few of those. The first one on our list here is biography in context. On this page, and as in any of the in-context resources, you'll see that they highlight 5 different topics there at the top. And as you scroll down, you'll see that there are a variety of categories, and in this case, since we're doing biographies, a list of names under each one of these. So we've got from actors to writers, people in the news, social reformers. When you look at this list, you can just click on any one of those names. So for example, let's just take a look at a contemporary world leader, and I'm going to click on Yasser Arafat. When you get one of these in-context pages, you'll see that we have some information here at the top, as well as a picture. On the right-hand side, there's a bit of a table of contents, so you can jump to just the reference information, websites, audio. And as I scroll down, you'll see that in addition to that biographical information at the top, we have some other content, reference materials, magazine and journal articles, featured content selected by their editors, items in the news, and at the bottom, if available, there are websites. On the right-hand side, underneath the table of contents, you'll see that there's a fact box. So some quick information about this person. If you want to see more information, you just click on the more facts and it opens that up. Below that, if available, there's video links, image links, and audio links. And many of those will be coming from NPR, National Public Radio. I'm going to scroll back up here to the top, and let's take a look at the biographical information available by selecting View More. Here you'll see where this information is coming from. On the right-hand side, there are links that I can download, bookmark, share, citation information, and I can email or print this document. In the text of the document, you'll see basic information, where he was born, where he died, nationality, and then we get into the history and biographical information of this person. If I scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, you'll find they include further readings and the source citation information. To go back to the page about Yasser Arafat, I just click on the top left here where it says topic, and that now brings me back to this page where I can look at reference journal articles and the like. I'm going to click on the home button and go back out. In addition to just selecting one of the names on here, you'll notice that under each one of the categories there are 3 names. To see the entire list across from the category name is View More. So you'll want to be sure and select that to see their entire list included in this database. So I'm going to go down to Singers and click on View More. And you'll see this list. So you've got a pretty broad variety here if you've got adults or students looking for biographical information on singers. The one I'm going to select today is Lady Gaga, so I'm going to click on that. And again, like we saw with the other one, we have the brief biographical information at the top with View More, and again, our reference content, magazines, journal articles. Just like we saw on the main page where they give 3 names under each one of the categories and then a view more, you'll notice that under reference, under magazines, there are 3 items. To see the rest of them, notice to the right of each one of those, there's a view all. So we click on that and we can see all the articles or all the reference items available for this person. On the left-hand side, we can jump back to reference items, the news items, or you'll also notice that we can limit our search or look at specific document types or publication titles to narrow this. On the far right, you'll see there are little boxes. If I hover my cursor over that, that indicates an intermediate reading level. If you've got the red triangles, that's a more advanced reading level, and the green circles will be a more beginner's level. So I'm going to click on the home button again. In addition to selecting from these categories and names listed on the front page, you can also view more of their highlighted topics here at the top as it moves through each one of these that they're highlighting, just by clicking on the view more. At the very top, you'll see that there is a search box. Notice that we can search by nationality, by birthplace, occupation, or where the person died. So I'm going to click on birthplace, and I'm going to put in Wyoming and search birthplace. So now you can display names of people that were born in Wyoming that are included in biography in context. And from this list, then I just click on the name and it will bring me back then to the familiar in context page for that person. Notice also at the top, in addition to the home button, there's a browse people button. When I click on that, it will give you a list of the newly added people in biography in context. It will also give you one that's been updated. So for example, this one that's been updated, you'll see that it was added because this person died just this last week. Also on that list at the top, you can choose a category. So it brings up new and updated, but if I click on that, I can go now into all of those other categories. Some that were on the front page, for example, the actors, but you'll notice I have a lot more categories here, professions of people in this resource. So let's just look at one of them. For example, I can look at historic world leaders or poets. Let's look at scientists, for example, and that just brings me up another alphabetic list. Also in that drop-down list at the bottom, there is a view all category. Also on the right here at the top, search more people, click here, and it will give you an advanced search box. And you can limit search in specific categories, nationalities, and things like that. The other tab here at the top is resources. What you'll find there that might be helpful is this tip sheet that they've provided. And this you can print out and use, put at in your training manuals or use in the schools when working with folks on this particular database. Okay, so that's biography in context. Let's take a look at a few others that we have under biography. The next one down the list is Britannica. Notice that we have academic, public library, and schools. All of them include some biographical sections in addition to be able to use their search box. In academic, the biography link is here in the middle under Browse. And it will just bring up an alphabetic list just like we've seen in, we had available to us in biography in context. If we go back, let's go back out and look at the schools. Under schools for Britannica, we have elementary, middle, and high school editions. And if you select one of those, just like we saw in the academic, you'll see that under features now, they have a link to biographies. So let's look at Hank Aaron again and just compare the two, the academic versus this middle school edition. The last one we'll look at is the Public Library edition of Britannica Online. And in this particular edition, Biographies is here under the search box. And if we click on Hank Aaron in this one, just to compare and look at it in all three, there's what Hank Aaron looks like in the Public Library edition. I'm going to click on Biographies again in Public Library edition. Notice that we can move through alphabetically and that these are very long alphabetic lists. Way down at the bottom, there's a link to go to the next page, and you can see we're just up to McDonald. But to help us move through that, even if you didn't know the entire spelling of the name, or were wanting to do some browse, here at the top you can add some characters in and jump to that spot within this alphabetic list. So I typed in part of Churchill. Now I can pick which one I want to look at, so I'm going to select Sir Winston Churchill. And here's the biographical information on Churchill. Notice at the top that I can print this page, print the entire article, email the article, get citation information. On the left-hand side is a table of contents for this biography. It's very extensive on Churchill, and I can jump to a specific section here. So for example, I can click on Leadership During World War II, and that will jump to that section of this biography. Here you'll also notice that I have some video, so if someone was doing some research on Winston Churchill, they could also see a video of him. At the very bottom is the citation information. Notice I can change it from MLA to APA Chicago style. And it gives today's date so that that is an up-to-date citation, which can be exported if you do have that kind of software at your end. The next one we're going to look at is a general basic database, and that's Masterfile Premier. I'm going to just put a name in here so we can take a look at how they're setting theirs up. I'm going to put in Capote. Our results are down the center. And notice I've got book reviews, academic journals, periodicals. So here on the left-hand side, under source types, I can narrow this to just the biographies. So now I've just got biographical information, but again, a good variety. Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia, Britannica Biographies, Hutchinson's Biography Database. If I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that I have other people's names. Because I just did a basic keyword search, it will bring up those biographies that include his name. I've come back out to my search results list, and let's just take a look at one of these. Some are going to be very short. So we saw a very long one in Britannica for Churchill, but you'll notice this one that's in this Hutchinson's Biography Database is just a short little edition. On the right hand side I can print, email, save, and get citation information here. I came back out to the main page. There is an advanced search option in this EBSCO database. You'll notice that again you can search in various fields, but here in your limit results you can limit to biographies. The next one I want to look at has not been added to our biography page yet. We have had Sir's Discoverer added to our suite of databases, and this is geared more for grades 1 through 9. There are several ways in Sir's Discoverer to get at biographies. At the bottom you'll see there's an encyclopedia. There's a link in the subject tree to notable people. On the right there's biographies, and of course keyword and subject searching. I'm going to just jump down to show the encyclopedia here, and let's look at Benjamin Franklin. Notice that this is also Compton's by Britannica, which is the same version we have for middle school under Britannica Online. So here's our resource for Benjamin Franklin. Notice that we have links to other items that are referred to in his biography. At the top, I can go back to the home page, and let's just look at their list of biographies here on the right. Again, I have a search box like we saw in the encyclopedia, and underneath an alphabetic list. So I'm just going to click on the L's. When you're in Search Discover, you'll get a list here, and at the bottom you'll see there's a link to the next 25. So you do have to watch for that so you can scroll through these. If there's interest, for example, in the new movie Lincoln, there's some information on Mary Todd Lincoln, or we can look at Charles Lindbergh. Notice when I came at it this way, I have multiple resources. So not only encyclopedia information, this one's from Famous Faces from Time, and the next one under it is from Boy's Life. So you're going to find in this particular database biographical information from a really nice variety of resources, which is great when whether you're an adult or kid doing research, comparing that information, where that information is coming from. The next way we'll take a look here is I'm going to do a search at the top for Steven Spielberg. And you'll notice, because I did a keyword search, look at all these hits that I have on my results page. So this allows me a great variety. I've got News and Record from North Carolina, Scholastic Scope, National Geographic World, Scholastic News, Biography Today, and you'll notice that one is George Lucas, number 11, says Biography Today, because again it will indicate or has listed Steven Spielberg in his information. At the very top, if I want to narrow this a bit, notice I have tabs. I can go just to newspapers, magazines, reference, graphics. If I go to the reference, that's going to narrow it a little bit more to more biographical encyclopedia information. The other thing to make note of here in Search Discover on my results page is that I have a great variety for age and reading. At the top, you'll see that I have a little book here, green for easy, blue for moderate, red for challenging, and you'll see those to the left of each one of the titles down in my results list. You'll also notice that if there's a P next to it, it's P for people. So you can again narrow down looking for those with more information about the person. And back at the home page, the last way to look in Search Discover for biographical information is in their subject tree under Notable People. What's going to come up is a current list of articles on notable people, but on the far right hand side you'll see the topics and subtopics here, so that you can search here under Notable People by profession. A great variety here, you can see from criminals to environmentalists. And here's our list, and again we've got a great variety of our resources here, and there's the full text. The next ones I want to show you are a little more specific resources. The first one I'm going to show you is back on the biography page, and that's Twains Authors Online. This is now one of our ebook collections, Gale Virtual Reference Library, and if I hover my cursor over it, it'll give me a description telling me that this will include introductions to the lives and works of major writers. So if you were looking for biographical information on one of our major writers of the world, this would be a great place to come. Again, we have a great long list alphabetically that I can scroll through. Or notice on the left hand side I can search this series. So I can jump right alphabetically to that person. When I look at one of these, it will refer to several parts you'll have background on their works as well as on the person themselves. Notice on the left-hand side, I can narrow it by document type. So there's biography, specifically, and other subjects and works that I can narrow to as well. In addition to going into that alphabetic list, you can put a search in at the very top. And again, then we get the list both about his works and about his life. And on the left-hand side, there's that link to go into biography information. A few others that are a little more specific, in addition to those under the biography subject page, is one called Lion, and that's literature online. When you come into literature online, on the left-hand side, there's a link to authors or author index. If I click on author index, I can browse by period, nationality, ethnicity, browse a full A to Z list of all the authors. And again, there's a long list and the letters here at the top. And you can see you're going to find a lot of folks on this list. If I click on one of those, it will give me basic information, birth, death, gender, literary periods, and it will also give me what information is available. There's their primary works and if a biography is available for that person. I can also use these search authors here on the left-hand side, which gives me an actual search box. So I'm going to enter Robert Frost, and it gives me my search results list. Basic information here, photos, bibliography, and here's a link to biographical information. At the top, you'll see that you can go to a print view, get the durable URL for this if you're putting it in a handout or wanted to put it on a web page, and I can email the full text. There is a webinar on the entire Lion database if you wanted more information about this particular one. Another resource on literature resources for biographical information is ProQuest Learning Literature. This one's geared more for the K-12 audience. It has a quick search box here at the top. There's also some study pages. So if they didn't have a name that they knew to search, they were just beginning their research, trying to find somebody to search for, you could come in and look at the genre pages or period pages or literature pages. So let's just look at genre pages. And now you could pick out a genre, for example, humor and satire, and now get a list of names Jonathan Swift, Garrison Keillor, Woody Allen, Mark Twain. So let's click on Mark Twain. And here's the basic information about Mark Twain, including a link to the author's biography. And you'll notice there's a basic table of contents at the top, so we can jump to those sections. So if you want to just read about his later life, you can jump down to that part here. I'm going to scroll back to the top. At the very top of each one of the pages are tabs that I can jump right to searching for authors or criticism or reference. So let's select authors. Notice that they're giving a hint that you can put a last name or first name then last name. So I'm going to type in Harper Lee. These little icons indicate what's available for that author. So that one indicates there is biographical information for Harper Lee. And again, there's those links and a photo. In each one of these, you'll see that we can get the durable link to this page, make a list of these, and then once we get into the information, we can print that information out. I'm going to go over to the main page here and do a quick search. And I'm going to select and search for Peggy Curry, Peggy Simpson Curry. And notice that this is an article. It came up in the literary criticism rather than information about the author. You're also going to get literary criticism articles about that person or articles that they've written. So here, instead of biographical information, is an article that she wrote. Notice that you have PDF format available so that you can see the actual scanned images of the article. This allows you to get the pictures and the captions as well as the article. And you'll see that this was first published in September 1967. And you can print out the PDF article. So speaking of Wyoming authors, since she was a Wyoming author, that's another place to find some biographical information. And that's here in the Wyoming Authors Wiki. If you haven't been in a while, notice that they have added the book covers. So I can click on one of these book covers and see what information has been added for this Wyoming author. They're going to be quite brief, but at least it gives you some information that may not be available anywhere else about these Wyoming authors. I can scroll down here and just look at some of the other covers available. For example, Craig Johnson or C.J. Box. Or on the right-hand side, I can browse the wiki by author, county, or genre. If I click on author again, I can just come in, get my long alphabetic list, or click on a letter. So let's take a look at Peggy Simpson Curry. Here's the information about her, what the source was, what genre she wrote in, and her works. I'm back here at the GoWYLD page. So where we found some of these are under the biography subject heading, but those few others, for example, Lion, ProQuest Learning Lit, Wyoming Authors, and SIRS Discoverer. For more information about some of our resources, if you go to the Wyoming State Library homepage, you'll see that there's a WYLD Databases blog. Here you'll find information about our resources, updated information, if things have changed, if there's going to be some change to their platform, for example, ProQuest Congressional, can be found here on the databases blog. Also on the home page is a link to the webinar archive so that you can see other webinars that have been done on our databases and resources. The other place you're going to be able to find information about our online resources, our databases, will be here under Help and Tutorials. We're now creating research guides, these LibGuides, and biography will be added to that here soon. You'll see these are the ones that we have so far: history, health and medicine, the in context databases. This is where you'll see information gathered for the databases that we have available under that topic. If we've done tutorials, vendor tutorials, and support materials like handouts, tip sheets, scavenger hunts, and the like. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great holiday season. Bye now.